Internet, and welcome once again to the always online multiplayer gaming podcast brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things multiplayer related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka Magicman, as always, and man, here we are, 2024, still chugging along. We got some great multiplayer news. We got some predictions sure to go wrong that Q and I need to figure out if we agree with or not. And we're going to go through all of it here with you. We thank you to all the Twitch viewers on twitch.tv/MMOBomb hanging out with us live as we do the show every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. If you're watching on YouTube, on MMOBomb.com, or listening on Audible or Spotify, whatever it is, thank you so much. Very much appreciated. Without you, there is no show. Give it a like, a thumbs up, a subscribe, turn on notifications. But most importantly, in the comments on YouTube and on MMOBomb, leave your weekly bombs, dub-bomb for something good, A-bomb for something bad in the world of gaming or life in general, and of course your question of the week answers. That's the back half of the show. Without you, there is no back half of the show. Joining me to go over all the fun stuff today, Mrs. Quinlan Bowers. What's up, Q?
The sun cannot decide whether it wants to be here or not, so as the light changes in here, you know why.
I have a feeling some point in the show we'll cut to her and it'll look like she's in a cave. We'll just see the monitor reflection off of her glasses and nothing else in the room.
There is a light on in here, but it's like, oh God, this morning it was raining so freaking hard, and it did look like there was no light in this room at all earlier this morning.
Also on the line, Mr. Troy Blackburn. What's up, Noob Fridge?
This should be the last week in these surroundings for podcasts. All I like getting my wife's recording studio set up is getting a hard drive in my old desktop. And then we should have new podcasting surround. It's got a dedicated mic, dedicated webcam for in there. It's for her, but I plan on doing the shows from in there too. So I'll be giving that a test run next week.
I will miss the opportunity to see the dogs leaving and coming and going as they please.
Yeah,
that is true.
I will miss that. I will miss that. Let's slide over and get started with the news. All right, so we were going to start the show with our 2024 predictions, but that's going to have to wait a minute because breaking news just came in right before the podcast, and I know Troy would never, ever forgive me if I didn't bring this to the show because I bet we'll get his opinion, but I'm sure he's absolutely ecstatic about this. So yesterday, we posted an article about the SMITE World Championships taking place this weekend. And of course, that's more than just the championships every year. There's always a ton of like info drop from High Res and all the teams under High Res that work on SMITE and some of their products. And so there's always all kinds of cool information, of course, like Twitch drops and freebies and all that type of stuff. But yesterday, they specifically were teasing that there was like a big change coming to SMITE, a big change. And so Troy and I were in the back, we're like, oh, wonder what it is. Maybe they're doing this, maybe they're doing this. Well, just like an hour before the show, half hour before the show, we got the big news. And Troy, I don't think it gets any like really bigger than what this is. Like They were like, big news. Sequel,
Smite 2 is coming on UE5 of all things, Unreal Engine 5. It looks good in the trailer. It looks really good. I'm watching it on the stream as you play it. It's taken a little bit of the cartooniness out of it. It's still not, like photorealistic or anything, but it's taken a little bit of that stylized sort of graphic style they were going with for a while back out of the game, and you can tell it's UE5 with some of the background and some of the characters and stuff. It looks really good. I'm really pumped for it, especially since they're going to be, letting you have legacy gems in Smite 2. Based on how much real world money currency you spend in these first games. So.
Yeah, let's hang on to that for a second. As far as like the top level stuff, they're already accepting signups for alpha. You can go and wishlist the game now on Steam. It's also going to be PlayStation 5, Xbox, and the Epic Game Store. So no surprises on where it is or anything. But Q, this is kind of big, I think, in the MOBA world, right? The big dogs in MOBAs are League of Legends, Dota 2, and Smite. And of course, over the years, I mean, there were a couple years there where every other damn game was a MOBA. that lasted about 6 weeks and then was gone. So contenders have come and gone, but it's been those three big dogs for so long, and they all add champs and heroes and gods, and they do balancing tweaks, and occasionally, like, the biggest news in the MOBA world in one of those three is like, we're getting a new map, right? Or an old map is coming back. I think this is probably some super, super big MOBA news for MOBA players. A company that maybe you didn't like this or that about SMITE, but they've always kind of at least done the right thing. We'll get to some of what I think they're doing right here, as Troy alluded to. But this is damn big.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, they don't necessarily always do the right thing, but they always try. That's the thing about high res, is they always try to do so. Like they'll screw some stuff up, but most of the time they're always really making an effort to do the right thing by their players and everything. And like he was saying, it's not super super realistic or whatever, and there is actually a reason for that was explained to me a long time ago. It has to do with the silhouettes of the characters. They make them in a certain way. Like they sometimes have to look different in different regions for whatever reason. So they need to keep the silhouettes so that when you're looking at them on the map, you can at least easily clock what god you're looking at.
Yeah.
Right. So part of that is the deal. So it will never be 100% like super, an attempt at super realism or stuff. Plus, I mean, come on, it is a bunch of gods running around. Like it's not entirely necessary, but it looks really nice. I was a little surprised because it was like it just wasn't something that I was clocking, because while SMITE is like in among the longest running, and I guess the most one of the big survivors of MOBAs and stuff, it's not necessarily the top MOBA out there, right? It's not the one with the most players or anything like that, but it is one with a dedicated following. So it's nice that they're doing something that will obviously extend the longevity of SMITE as an IP and let those players keep going and getting new things. And they're already adding new pantheons and new gods that are specific to SMITE too.
Yeah, some of the new features, obviously, Troy, you mentioned Unreal Engine 5. That's a huge one. We're getting an improved UI, updated audio, better spell effects, new god pantheons, an overhauled relic and item system. They're going to put dual power sources in, strength and intelligence, so it gives you a little more diversity in the playstyle. They're revamping the item store. They're adding the Divine Legacy program, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And both games will stay. This isn't a sequel replacing the original. They are fully intending to support both of these through Titan Forge games, saying, hey, nope, they're not going anywhere. You can play both. And in fact, let's get to it, because I think this is really one of the best decisions they're making, Troy, is the Legacy program, which almost gives you an incentive to want to play both, right? Maybe not after SMITE 2 comes out, but knowing that closed alpha isn't until spring, that projects a launch, at best end of the year, more likely 2025. This may make you want to play SMITE right now if you've kind of fallen away from it, knowing how they're working the Legacy stuff.
Yeah, knowing that anything you're doing right now isn't necessarily just wasted time and money is a great move. That way you don't kill your game while everybody's waiting on the sequel to come out and being like, oh, I'm not spending this money on this. I'm not spending my time on that. It's a good thing for the current game and for the new game going forward.
Also going to be some improvements to crossplay functionality too. Yeah, and if you've spent money in SMITE, you're going to get Legacy gems in SMITE 2. They've already shown off a number of special skins and badges. So the official site's up now, but Q, I know before the show, there was still some wonky stuff, right? Like it wasn't all available yet because they were mid-announcing things as we were going.
I think that's what it is. Either that or they forgot to turn a video on. There's just like when I was looking at it, there was the trailer that you're playing, but there was also another video embed that was just like, this is private. You can't look at it yet. So I don't know if it's just in everything that they're doing, they just kind of missed turning that particular video on, or if it's
Right.
something that they were waiting to turn on later and it was just a placeholder.
Definitely going to be one to watch. Alpha, closed alpha, early spring. Again, go wishlist it, sign up for it now. I really don't care. I'm not a huge MOBA guy. When I have played MOBAs, though, it usually was Smite. I think it's like the third-person view versus the isometric view. I kind of dig the third-person view a lot more. I'll give it a whirl. Troy, you can school me a little bit. That's fine. That's fine. But I knew Troy was going to be absolutely thrilled by this news.
Yes, sir. I'm very happy to hear this. It's a little above beyond my expectations. I did sort of guesstimate in the article where they were teasing their big announcement. I was like, what if it's an engine upgrade? What if it's UE5? Could you imagine Smite
That's
in
what I
UE5?
thought it was going to be, an engine upgrade.
Yeah. And then to hear it actually be UE5 and not some almost announcement like, oh, we're going to UE4 or something like that. Like to hear them actually go all the way to UE5 and introduce a sequel, like that's really big news. It actually lived up to the hype of what they were hyping it up to be.
Few times that it does in our professions here.
Yes.
It's very rare. Very rare. Okay, let's move on and talk about some predictions. Troy put up the annual article 2024 predictions. We got 5 or 6 here. We're going to go through. Chat, by the way, chime in with whether you believe us or not. If you're watching YouTube, this is going to be question of the week, right? What did you think of our predictions? Which ones do you agree with and which one you don't? But more importantly, question of the week, what's your multiplayer gaming prediction? And what's your take on ours? So let's first up, Troy, we'll hit Riot. You predict that Riot Games is going to remain radio silent on their MMO, that we won't hear much, if anything at all, from the Riot game teams on the League of Legends MMO. Why are you taking that view?
I think there's a possibility that at the end of the day, long term, this turns into something beyond what it was originally scoped out to be.
Kind of like a Titan into Overwatch type deal?
Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to turn into like an arena shooter or something like that, or a hero shooter. But, they've been strangely radio silent up to this point. I don't see any reason why they're going to announce anything at this big at this point. This year coming up, even if it is still a full-fledged MMO, we're probably still years away from it. So there's really no sense in announcing too much, this far out from when it would actually launch, years of development later at this point anyway. So I just, between, the possibility of it being morphed into something else, getting canceled, or just flat out where, we're still too many years away from it actually becoming a full-fledged MMO, I think 2024 is probably just too early to announce anything big on it.
Q, agree or disagree?
If they're smart, if Riot is actually smart, then I would agree, because like it's one of those things, right? One of the big failings of the MMO industry is people announcing a game too early, and then and then they're either having to be changes or whatever. But the minute you officially announce it, then you start having to reveal all these other things, or people start setting up expectations. So if they just leave it at, right now, it's supposed to be an MMO, and it's, set in the League of Legends universe, then that's all the expectations anybody needs for it right now. And I think it's just smarter to leave it until you're closer to actually showing something.
I'm going to disagree. Yeah, I'm going to disagree. I think we get something out of them, and ironically, Baron kind of jumped my thought process here. Smite 2 just got announced. I don't know if you guys know about that. So Riot Games might be incentivized to talk a little more about something exciting in their portfolio. We have reason to believe, we know that there's some other projects going on, but I think the one everybody wants to know about is the MMO. Now, are we going to get a beta or anything like? No. Don't misunderstand me there. But I think we do get like a gameplay thing, a trailer thing, or a full-on cancellation notice. But I won't count that one. So I think we will hear something. substantive, but not substantial, if that makes sense.
So I would like to point out that Smite is high res, and high res always announces things early and
Oh,
lets
always.
everybody in way early.
Yeah,
So I
which
don't
is also why
know
we don't do
that I would
first
compare
looks
other
on high
companies to
res
them.
stuff until later.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know that I would compare what any other company is doing to what high res is doing.
We 100% learned our lesson hard with the Paladin's first look that we had to go back and
Oh,
redo
yeah.
twice.
Yep.
The originals
I
are
mean, which is
still
fine.
there.
That's how they develop games. They
Yeah.
announce it, they get people in there doing it, and they develop around the players. But if that's not how you're developing a game, don't go start telling everybody things too early. It's just going to end badly.
Next up, The War Within. So we're talking about WoW retail here, not classic. The War Within will be a disappointment for World of Warcraft fans, Troy. I see people that are looking forward to this one, thinking that maybe it's the beginning of the whole trilogy of expansions that kind of redoes some things, but you're seeing the other side of the coin.
Yeah, I think people are going to hype themselves up a little too much for this one. The past years of Blizzard Magic are done. They're dead and gone. They have been for a long time. Metzin's back, but he's in charge of sort of World of Warcraft or Warcraft as a whole, not necessarily World of Warcraft and the storytelling within. So they've proven over the past few years that they can't tell a good story and they can't produce interesting content. Dragonflight was better than the one before it, but at the end of the day, if the one before it wasn't so bad, how would Dragonflight have been received? Coming off of something like Legion. So, it'd be interesting to see that. But, I think at the end of the day that they've proven that they struggle with telling a good story. They have for several years now, several expansions now. And, they're making big promises and I don't know that they can keep them.
I'm going to disagree on this one. I think War Within is going to head into a better place. I did agree in your write-up about, like, it's not going to be like this earth-shattering, so much better thing. I agree there. I don't think it's going to backtrack onto disappointment. I think it's going to be an improvement and something that most players be hopeful about. I also think this is so subjective that, like, even if it's wildly disappointing to everybody, I will fight you to the death come December with like 2 written notes of friends that said they loved it. Like, I'll be like, they said they loved it. So I'm gonna say no on this one. I'm gonna disagree. What about you, Q?
Okay. Keeping in mind that I am not a WoW player, and the last time I touched WoW was briefly during Mists. But it's narratively speaking, in my opinion, WoW has never been great. Like, it's never been great at keeping everything cohesive. Everything is constantly changing and different.
Little bit, yeah.
Expecting good cohesive long running narrative from World of Warcraft is like expecting one from Doctor Who. You just accept that sometimes shit doesn't make sense and roll with it. The other thing I would say is that, and it obviously this was all done with pretty much by the time the Microsoft thing happened, but a lot, I think, of the problems that WoW and any of the Blizzard stuff had was, the top tier people basically like not letting people do their freaking jobs
Right.
the way they should. So I don't know how people will actually receive the War Within, but I kind of almost feel like it's supposed to be, I don't know, an ending or something, just kind of wrap things up and get it all done. And if it does that well, then it can just set everybody up for whatever comes next, and hopefully that will be good. So I don't know that people will just be flat out disappointed with it, but I don't think it's going to be like the most amazing thing ever.
All right, so I'm going to put you down as a disagree, basically the same kind of logic that I had there. Yeah,
No, I did see the FanFest Ninja, and it was okay.
What's next? Tarisland will be a flop.
Boom.
That's a take.
Yeah, it's essentially a mobile game with a PC port to me. Now, keep in mind, my experience with the game is limited. I've only played during, testing periods that open and close at certain times. So I haven't had a chance to deep dive into the game and see, later systems. It's a very early impression of the game. But the game is just a WoW ripoff down to its core. I mean, they've got Taurens, they've got Jaina Proudmoore, they've got Anduin Wrynn, they've got you are the only one who can save the world. The only thing that'll keep it from being World of Warcraft is in World of Warcraft you're one of the ones who saved the world, but you never actually get credit for it. It's always the main characters who end up getting credit for defeating the Lich King. And well. So and so was there, so they're the ones who defeated. No, motherfucker, I'm the one who.
That was me and 25 of my closest friends,
right? So it just doesn't come across as a great game to me, and I think Western audiences, at the very least, will see. There's going to be hype for it. There's going to be the initial player base who wants to jump in and check out a new MMO. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be seen as a game that's really not that great and just a shallow World of Warcraft ripoff.
Yeah, I'm actually going to agree with you on this one. I do think it'll have its player base for a little while, I think what further hurts it is the potential for Blizzard and NetEase to kiss and make up and push World of Warcraft back into China, which is where I think Tarisland had the best shot of doing something, was in China. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to be one of those, 3 days later it closes. I think it'll have an audience for a while, but I think it'll also be very flash in the pan, where, 2 months after it launches, we're talking about server merges and stuff like that. So I'm going to agree. To me, that's probably going to put it in the flop territory. What about you, Q?
Yeah, I kind of think so. I mean, it's just, I'm not really sure what the point was in bringing it trying to bring it west was anyway, because we still had WoW. Yeah. So but obviously if Blizzard, if the whole Blizzard and NetEase making up thing wasn't going to happen, which I'm pretty sure it will now since Microsoft is in charge, they want that, money. They would have had a huge audience there because there was nothing else. So it was something to do. But
yeah.
I mean, if Blizzard's going back into China, then people are just going to be giving my old character back. I've been playing this for God knows how many years.
Heroes of the Storm, that was the rare one where we all agreed. Heroes of the Storm will be brought back from the dead.
Yeah, I know this one's coming out of left field a little bit, but with the Microsoft acquisition, I feel like they're going to be looking to, do some things with Blizzard games and put some games on Game Pass and move some games to consoles and things like that. I'm not necessarily guessing that Heroes of the Storm is going to console, but they're going to be looking to make some moves with some Activision games and some Blizzard games. And Heroes of the Storm is ripe for the picking. It's a full-fledged game out there ready to go. It's a complete game, feature complete. It's just in maintenance mode right now, and all it would take is some new heroes, some new updates, and put it on Game Pass, and really put some Microsoft marketing behind it to bring it back. Plus, you've got the universe of that Microsoft owns. The Nexus in Heroes of the Storm, it's all about, all the Blizzard properties kind of coming together. You can start including some Microsoft properties in that as well, and bringing in different properties that they own into the game and introduce new characters and things that way. So you've got some new things that you can introduce to the game and be really ripe for the picking as well for that. So, Heroes of the Storm, I think it's ready to go. I think it's something that they could push and bring back from the dead.
I wouldn't normally agree with you, but I do on this one, because seeing it towards the tail end of last year, October-ish and November-ish, we actually saw an update or two get pushed into Heroes of the Storm. Then we reported on them. They kind of came out of nowhere and they got pushed in. I think Microsoft has eyes on doing something with that. I 100% agree. Q?
And it's a good MOBA. It really is a good MOBA, and it's very accessible for a different type of player, a little more casual player, and you don't have to have an esports competition for a game to be good.
True. What do you think, Q?
Well, I was actually going to say regarding the esports, like I know several people that were, obviously very disappointed when they kind of slowed down, that decided they weren't going to do esports and whatever anymore and put it on, put it into undead status. But I think it would be something that would be good to bring back. And if they could do it for consoles as well, like throw it on the Xbox or whatever, I think it would be something that would, be really fun in that way. So, I mean, there are plenty of opportunities for them to just like, pick through Blizzard's library and be like, all right, we got stuff to play with. And Heroes is just something that still had it had a following. The problem was that it wasn't making Blizzard money on the esports end, which is how they thought it was going to make them money. And
Yeah.
right, that's more or less why it wasn't just that it was a bad game or anything like that. It was just it wasn't making them esports money like they thought it would. So
Mhm.
Another one where we all agree. All right, here's one. Two more left. No new EverQuest, despite rumblings. So this stems from the reports from ENAG Global in their presentations, their financial presentations in 2023, towards the back half of 2023, showing that they were spending money, approximately earmarking $25 million for something EverQuest related. They referred to it as like their most valuable IP. Obviously would still be a couple years away from what they were saying. It was in what they called the ideation phase over at Enid Global. Troy, I'm going to give you a chance to talk about here, but I'm immediately going to disagree. Now, I don't think that we're going to be like EverQuest 3 and here's a trailer. But I feel
Yeah.
like we are going to get pieces of this is what we're thinking of doing with the IP and some more rumbling. So I would say I don't expect them to like announce stuff the way I anticipate Riot will get a little more involved in showing off the MMO or canceling it.
Mhm.
We're not going to see like gameplay trailers or anything, but I think we are going to continue to get little drops of info on this from ENAG Global. So I'm going to disagree, but just barely. Just barely. I don't think it'll be an EverQuest drought all 2024.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe some more rumors and innuendo is probably the best that I'm guessing coming out of there in 2024. I do think it's pretty obvious they absolutely want to do something with the EverQuest franchise. What it's going to be, don't get overly hyped for a brand new full-fledged
Card
MMO
game.
just yet.
Another fucking card
Yeah,
game.
yeah. So, don't get too excited for an MMO just yet. But they are wanting to do something with the EverQuest franchise. I just think it's too early in the development process. I think they've pretty much said they're still in the ideation phase. I don't think they even know what they would announce if they would make an announcement. So I don't think that there's anything to announce right now for EverQuest.
Q.
yeah, I don't know on this one. Because honestly, I haven't even really it's not something that's been on my radar thinking about EverQuest much.
I thought it was like the fall of the Roman Empire. It's something you think about every day, right? EverQuest and the fall of the Roman Empire.
No, then I would have to like remove like the half of my brain that just thinks about Doctor Who all day. I don't have room for that. No, it's just one of the, and I think part of the reason I don't think about it that much is because there have been some attempts at new EverQuest stuff.
It never seems to
Attempts have
pan
been
out.
made. Attempts have been made, and then they just kind of don't go anywhere. So I don't know. There could be another attempt, but I don't necessarily see attempts being something that goes somewhere because they just haven't.
So Q basically agrees with you. Okay. All right. Last one. This one I think is interesting. We have talked about this, Troy, you and I, on some Gaming Gumbo podcasts too.
Mhm.
World of Warcraft comes to Xbox Game Pass. Lay down your case.
Yeah, so I think this is just a matter of time. 2024 might prove to be a bit early, but I was like, it's gonna. I said it in the article. It's gonna happen sooner or later, in my opinion. So I just threw it into 2024. Like, why not sooner than later? I think they're going to do something interesting with Xbox Game Pass. I think they're definitely going to be introducing some Blizzard games to that. I think World of Warcraft is ripe for that, especially if the War Within ends up being a flop as much as I think it's going to be. Or not necessarily a flop, but a disappointment that doesn't live up to the hype. Tarisland is going to be the flop. But I think it's just a matter of time before World of Warcraft comes to Game Pass, and I think that might as well, if you're going to do it, just rip the Band-Aid off, let's throw that sucker in there, get some hype for the game, build some player base back up, and lead into your new expansion with it.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my side of this real short. I agree. Although we've obviously seen that none of the January Xbox Game Pass releases are slated to be the Blizzard titles that anybody thinks would come at some point. It's just a matter of time. And I think you could creatively put World of Warcraft in there in a way that makes it beneficial to subscribe to the Game Pass if you're foregoing the actual World of Warcraft $15 subscription. I think there's creative things they could do with, for $2 you get your sub, and just bonus stuff that they could combine some of those things. I absolutely agree. Now the other question is, will it come to consoles? You did not make a prediction on that one, but coming to Game Pass, as far as being able to bundle it in PC or Game Pass way, I absolutely agree. Q?
It has to, because why would you spend all the money on Blizzard properties and not stick it on Game Pass?
Yeah, also fair point. All right, I have now updated the actual live article, so now Q and I have our takes in there. Go to the article, put your opinions in there. Also, it is this week's question of the week. Make your own 2024 prediction while you chime in on ours. Let's move over and talk about some rapid fire news here. 31:36. Look at me taking timestamps like I know what I'm doing. First up, I'm so happy about this. Troy was super happy about SMITE 2. I am super happy about this. Palworld early access kicks off next week. Next Friday, early access on the 19th. Day one Game Pass as well. I don't know how long this game will stick with me. I have no damn clue, but it doesn't matter. If I get a couple hours out of just grinning like an idiot while playing Pokemon with guns, it'll all have been worth it for me. It'll all have been worth it for me. Now, if you're looking for this to come to other platforms besides Xbox or PC, I wouldn't hold your breath. I wouldn't hold your breath, right? They do Craftopia, and that is not on other platforms yet. So I don't think you have much hope on that one, at least in the very, very short term. But next Friday, if it's ready to go, this will be what I'm streaming after the podcast next Friday. I don't know if it'll be ready as far as their servers actually functioning and stuff like that, but very, very much looking. And Friday after that, copyright takedown. I gotta feel like, Q, we've made the Pokemon with guns jokes, and everybody on the internet has. I gotta feel like if there was a case, it would have been made by now. Pocket Pair hasn't exactly been quiet about this game.
Yeah, some of them do look like well-known Pokemon, and there's one critter that looks like a carbuncle. Actually, Jason called it a gunbunkle because the first video that came out, the carbuncle was like manufacturing the guns.
I remember Jason Winter saying that he just wanted to own his own sweatshop of all of these things, just mass producing guns for him. Just mass producing. And it is a building and trying to fight off a poacher thing. There is an actual story
You're
to this,
supposed
but I
to
don't
do
care.
something good.
Yeah, there's supposed to be a point to it, but I don't care. Forget it.
It's Pokemon with guns.
Yeah, I don't need a point. That's all I need. Either of you checking this one out, or am I the only one pumped for this one?
I mean, I think it's I think it's hilarious, but I don't know if I will spend time in it or not yet.
Yeah, this one isn't for me. It looks like it could be fun for the people who are into that sort of thing, but it's not my jam. So
bunch of heathens. bunch of heathens. What are you talking about? This is game of the year, 2024. I'm calling it. Just game of the year. We'll see next Friday. Hopefully the servers will be up right after the show, and we'll play. You'll pass too. What is wrong with you people? Do you guys just not like fun? That's what it is. People don't like fun anymore.
Well, in my case, it's one, it will probably cost money that I don't have to spend on it. And two, I don't have room
I have
on
Game
my hard
Pass, so I don't
drive.
have to spend money on it at all. Come on, YouTube.
I don't have
I
room
cannot
on my
be
hard
the only
drive.
one that is like, yes. Hit me up in the comments. These two.
I just find the whole thing hilarious, and I am kind of shocked that Nintendo hasn't
Somebody
already
justify
gone
my
after them.
excitement, please.
Somebody justify my excitement. Your Smite 2 is gonna suck. Smite 2 will be a flop, Troy. It's gonna be a flop.
I feel like Troy deserved that after like listing several things that are just all gonna flop or just be terrible or whatever. Like that was the most negative predictions ever.
When they were originally written, we had talked ahead of time, and I was like, put an EverQuest one in there. We had talked about it on the show, and he's like, oh yeah. He sends me the whole thing for proofing, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna rearrange some of these because it definitely, if you have them in the order Troy originally submitted, there was a downward trajectory reading through all of them.
A downward spiral.
And so I rearranged some of them, and it flows a lot better. And then I looked, and I was like, Troy, there's no EverQuest one in here. And he's like, oh shit, I forgot. Like he was just so busy bashing Tarisland that he totally forgot. Palworld, game of the year. It's going to be amazing. It's probably going to be awful, but like I said, if I get like a couple hours out of it, Pocket Pair's a good company though.
Cute.
They do good stuff. I'm hopeful for this one. And
it actually looks cute. It just like I'm still surprised that Nintendo said nothing about it, or the Pokemon Company rather.
Yeah.
Like nobody said anything about this game.
Hey, what's this say for your game, right? Let's say, Troy, that you are a long-time running MMO.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, let's say you are a 14-year-old MMO as far as when you launched in South Korea. So your very first launch. Well, it's still 14. It was just like much, much later in the year when it came here. Let's say you're a 14-year-old MMO, action combat MMO. And 14 years in, you decide, hey, we're going to take something out of our game that's been here since day one. All PvP.
I think it says you're finally ready to quit wasting resources on something that doesn't matter to your game.
Vindictus removing all PvP content.
Yeah.
Siege matches, arena, deathmatch, tournament, sports day, NPCs and menu options that go with PvP, quest lines that go with PvP. If you haven't completed those storylines before this change, which comes up later this month on January 23rd, you aren't going to be able to. That includes like different achievements, titles, and stuff that are obtained, and all the currencies that go with. Like it's just PvP gone, taking it all out.
There are other MMOs who could stand to do this a little bit too. PvP, you know, there are MMOs where PvP is popular, but there are some where their PvP just exists just to be a quote unquote feature complete MMO. And I don't think it's necessary to be an MMO to have PvP just to be an MMO, especially if that's not where your specialty lands.
I'm looking at you, Final Fantasy 14. I'm sorry, Q. Next on, totally removing PvP.
I mean, it is something that strikes me because it's just sudden, right? It's just suddenly like it seemed like there was no discussion or like with the players or anything else. It was just like, PvP's gone now. And not just like we're doing away with bits and pieces. It's literally all of it. And I would assume for PvP to be there for 14 years and them not to have done like at least taken out bits and pieces of it sooner, because there's a lot, there's a lot of variations of PvP that they listed, right?
And I'm amazed it wasn't trimmed first.
Yeah, exactly. Like that it was just all of it gone. There are obviously no PvP players left in this game, but there were up to a certain point because you weren't trimming off bits and pieces. Like, when did you decide PvP was dead?
People like Crystalline Conflict. Oh, I know. Yeah, I like poking Final Fantasy 14 on the PvP front. I've been poking them on that front since Game Breaker. Give me that. Stop. stop. Yeah, people do like Crystalline Conflict. I'm just not one of them. I think what maybe happened, Troy, is like the PvP department for Vindictus. Like, I don't know how many people work on Vindictus anymore. They do add stuff. We've covered them over a couple of times over the last year with some different updates and the 11th legend or 12th legend or whatever character that they've added. So they still do make stuff. But like, I just see it was like, Mark just quit, and somebody's like, well, what the fuck? Mark's PvP. Like,
Mark's the PvP guy.
Mark's the PvP team. Like, I guess our game doesn't do PvP anymore. Hey, got a rumor?
You hear stories sometimes
yeah.
from games where like one person quits and it does completely shut down a feature.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for the longest time, that was like a thing. And Final Fantasy XI is obviously aged, right? And it's developed on some hardware that you'd be very amused to find out is the hardware if you don't know the story. We can go into that some other time, not take up showtime. But there was a point where it was like, yeah, nobody knows how to develop cutscenes on this. Like, everybody that's ever developed cutscenes doesn't work on this team anymore. We don't know how to do it. Like, they just couldn't do it. Hey, here's a rumor for you. Tell me if you think it'll come true. Q, we'll start with you. Sea of Thieves. There's a rumor out from a few different sources on this, including Stephen Tillo over at GameFile, which, by the way, Stephen obviously doing his own thing now on GameFile with some changes at other organizations. Lots of freaking layoffs still going on. Twitch, Discord, Unity, big percentages of staff, and it's a mess. But go check out GameFile. Fantastic site. Stephen's always awesome. I don't know him personally, so I'm not vouching for a friend here or anything. Just a thumbs up dude as far as reporting goes. Love that stuff. Sea of Thieves, Microsoft's one of Microsoft's marquee titles through Rare, could be coming to PlayStation and even the Switch in early 2024. Do you think that's a possibility, Q?
You know, considering all the time that Microsoft spent making deals on Blizzard games with everybody, the 10-year deals and stuff like that, we'll let you, we'll make sure that I don't see why they wouldn't take the opportunity to maybe make some other deals for their games, because having games that are specific to your stuff means people might buy your stuff, but there's a whole bunch of people that are not buying your hardware, not owning a PC, not buying the Xbox, that could still be playing your game if you go ahead and put it on those other systems. So I think it's actually a good possibility, and I think it'd be a good move.
I think so too. The other rumor part of this is that Hi-Fi Rush is going to the Switch, which I think is just a fantastic idea too. Like, I like games as available on as many platforms as possible, right? I'm not generally a fan of exclusivity. It doesn't personally bother me, but that's because I'm blessed enough to be able to own all of the consoles and stuff and have a PC that can do it. So I just buy it. Doesn't matter. But in like commercial world, I want them to be available everywhere. I realize that's not always going to be possible, but where possible, why not? Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush can make a lot of money. It's that, Troy, you said it earlier, and Q, you mentioned money too on the Activision side of things, on the Microsoft side of things. There's a lot of money to be made there. And I think Sea of Thieves would be an interesting announcement if it coincided right around the time Skull and Bones came out. That'd be a little interesting, I think.
Oh, good old Skull and Bones.
Troy, any truth to it?
I think you're not doing your job if you're not at least having conversations like that within your company. I think that they're probably just conversations at this point. I don't know that they're going to move something like Sea of Thieves to PlayStation. I could see something like Sea of Thieves doing well on the Switch. Although I guess is Nintendo's online capability still as limited and janky as it used to be?
It's better now.
Is it?
It's not top tier, but it's kind of better. When you refer to things as kind of better, I don't know if that's a ringing endorsement or not. Finally, very quickly, the Elder Scrolls Online is going to be holding its stream to show off the plans for 2024. That'll be next week on Thursday, so I'm sure Troy and I will talk about it on next week's cast because we are Elder Scrolls dabblers. If you're not an Elder Scrolls fan, Redbeard Flynn, my boy, put up a new video, I think it was today or yesterday, on why after 10 years he's finally decided he doesn't like Elder Scrolls Online. It only took 10 years for my boy to get there, but he got there. So, yeah, we'll be covering that. We also have the Microsoft Direct is coming up as well, too. So that's not too far from now. Since you don't care a one lick about Elder Scrolls, I'm going to ask you what you thought about the Final Fantasy 14 Tokyo FanFest and the keynote and the final reveals for Dawn Trail, the Pictomancer class, the Beastmaster Limited class, which now I'm thinking I totally forgot to talk about on the show last night, that Beastmaster one. It's all right. It was a good show anyway. So what'd you think? Are you hyped for Dawn Trail? Because I'm seeing some conflicting stuff out there amongst our Final Fantasy 14 friends.
So there is stuff that I'm excited for. I like the new jobs. The race was expected, right? Sooner or later we were going to get female Rothgar. No big deal there.
Here's a shot of Troy just stretching because he doesn't care one lick about Final Fantasy 14.
So the new map and the new zones, all of that looks cool. I'm still I have this kind of pet peeve story trope, and it's kind of what they've been telling us that this is going to be, right? Which is the you getting into this divide among you and your friends now, right? You go all the way to the end of the universe, you save the entire universe, you do all of this stuff, and now we're going to go over to help with some transfer of power BS. And that's going to cause a rift in our friendship with the people that we have literally faced death with. Like, what is this? Why is this a thing that's supposed to be happening? Like, we can't just sit down, have some coffee, and sort that shit out. Like, I hate that particular trope. So I don't know how I feel about that, but it could work differently is the thing that I'm kind of like, it may be different than what I'm thinking it's going to be. But their description basically is kind of feels almost like, Captain America Civil War fighting with your friends stuff. And I hate that. But the other stuff, I mean, all the features and all of that all look really cool. Obviously, that there's probably some more stuff they could have put in if they weren't busy going back and rejiggering, old code and all of that jazz and making all the changes they've been making over time. And I'm hoping that whatever the housing extension, like item extensions are, includes outside, because that's where I've run out of space. But I mean, overall, it's something to look forward to. I'm definitely not as hyped as like we were for Endwalker.
Oh,
right?
see, I said the same thing yesterday. I'm so glad you're with me there. Like, I've seen some doomsayers online that are like, if this doesn't blow it out of the water, Final Fantasy 14's dead. No, it's just fucking not. Like, it's just not. But as a long time, almost everyday player, I am kind of like, I'm still very much looking forward to it. I like ranged magic classes, so I'm very interested in Pictomancer.
I'm going to be terrible at Pictomancer, but I'm going to level her anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be thrilled with the way the class plays or anything, but we'll see. I like ranged magic users. So there are things that I love the Final Fantasy XI aesthetic for the 24-person Alliance raid. Like, that's, right, heartstrings, baby, heartstrings. Like, so there are aspects of it that I'm like, yes, I'm very interested in, but I am just kind of like, cool. There's going to be new stuff to do, and we're going to see some new things. But because it's like this new beginning, and they haven't really shown anything as far as where the story heads,
it's hard to tell.
It's hard to get pumped for it. It's hard to get really excited for it. Instead, it's just like all right, we'll wait and see. Yeah, I'm interested in a couple of these bits and bobs. We'll wait and see. Which is kind of a weird feeling for me on the expansions, because I think all but one, I was like, yes. And even that one, I was like, I really don't care for the aesthetic or where we're going personally. It's not my cup of tea, but fucking Red Mage, yes! Like this one, I'm just like, okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah, and people were shocked at the Pictomancer thing, right?
Oh
Everybody
yeah,
was expecting Green Mage.
yeah. Some
Like
people were.
all day long, like the day before, Green Mage was trending on Twitter. Everybody was expecting Green Mage. But I know a lot of people who were guessing that like Beastmaster is going to be something. You know, they just, and so there were a lot of people that felt very vindicated near the end of that.
Hey Troy, what do you think of the Final Fantasy 14 keynote? Are you looking forward to Dawn Trail and everything that comes with it? I know you're super pumped.
Who?
Let's go do the weekly bombs. Troy, not a Final Fantasy 14 fan. Matt in chat, welcome. Hello to you too, my friend. Hello to you too, my friend. Q, why don't you go first with your weekly bomb?
I'm actually gonna give it WTF bomb to
Okay.
whatever it is that SAG is doing with the voice actor
Yeah,
deals and
really
stuff.
weird.
It's one of those things. And when SAG made the deal for the Screen Actors Guild, or for the Screen Actors, I should say, when they made that deal, there were a lot of voice actors, because I follow voice actors on Twitter, who were like, "No, this is bullshit. We're not going to sign off on this." But obviously, enough people signed off to make the deal go through. Now it's right, the video game voice actors, and it's still voice actors that are saying this isn't right. And I think the worst part about it is that they're basically kind of, in this case, and implying that they weren't addressed at all. SAG is saying that they've talked to people or whatever. These particular ones are saying they haven't, although there were a few that are like, well, I'm a pretty big voice actor and nobody talked to me, and I'm sitting there looking at the name going, are you sure?
That's like when Troy walks into Applebee's and he's like, "Do you know who I am?"
I mean, not that I'm not to at all disrespect, their position, because if they're concerned about it, they should be concerned. But it's still that was just a little weird to me. Like, nobody addressed me personally, and I'm just like, I don't know. But so yeah, it's a bit of a WTF in the entire thing, because I don't really understand personally how these contracts work. I know the big concern, right, is that they're going to force the actors to get in there, do these pre-recorded stuff, and then go ahead and AI the rest of it and never address them again. And the way it's supposed to work, according to SAG, is that everything has to be, consented on,
right,
by, like, it has to be an approved deal and meet all of these specs and everything else. And I just wonder if what's really happening is a lot of people are worried that enough people will just go ahead and sign off all the time, that they'll be like, okay, well, if you don't want to sign, then we're just not going to have you be a voice actor, because these other people are willing to do it.
Right.
And then they feel like they have no choice.
I just have visions now of Troy walking into Applebee's. I'm kind of a big deal.
I don't know if you know who I am, but I am mildly internet famous.
Oh no, I don't think you're out of the endless ribs. Don't you tell me that. Do you know who I am? Troy, what's your weekly bomb?
A-bomb to old white guy Bobby Kotick, saying that there are too many old white guys in leadership.
Allegedly.
You know what?
It
is a point. There are too many old white guys in leadership. He just happens to be one of them.
Allegedly said it. Allegedly said it. It's part of a lawsuit, yeah. Allegedly. I don't want Activision's lawyers emailing me again. Remember the last time, Q, I had to spend like 8 hours on the phone back and forth with them.
I'm so sorry about that.
No, we didn't do anything wrong. They were just like being, upset about stuff. That's their job. I'm going to give a dub bomb to Palworld. Can't wait to try it out. From the viewers, please remember, put yours in the comments on YouTube or right on mmobomb.com. In fact, we prefer you do it there. That site pays the bills, if you know what I mean. Soul Echelon says, I got 2 dub bombs if that's okay. One is Warframe. The most recent update, The Whispers in the Wall, is absolutely amazing. New content, new enemy faction, new NPC faction, new mission types, new community-based event, new tile set, more zany Warframe-flavored lore, a mind-boggling teaser for what's to come that connects Warframe to Dark Sector, and to top it all off, Neil Newborn, Astarion from Baldur's Gate 3, voices a giant big-headed fish that talks to you during missions and does an amazing job at it. He also badmouths your clan dojo during the event I mentioned earlier, which had me rolling. Second to bomb is Final Fantasy XIV. They had their final FanFest last weekend, and it was amazing. They showed off some mind-blowing things, like the upcoming expansion. The 2 new classes, Viper and Pictomancer, both look very fun. New zones and lore potentially referencing 6 and 9. A graphical update the game sorely needed. And they finally revealed the female Hrothgar as a playable race who look exactly how I was hoping they would look. As the cherry on top, Yoshi P wants to give everyone a free Fantasia character change potion, for those of you that don't know. Along with the expansion. We Warriors of Light are going to eat real good this summer. I'm glad somebody's super excited. I'm with you. I'm interested, but I don't have the excitement you do. And I appreciate you sharing it with us. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Q.
Bregner, at 13:30, I'm guessing that was the last cast.
In the last show, yeah.
I don't know. I really dislike the only you can save the world storytelling in MMOs. Yeah, I do too. Which is the reason why Secret World Legends is still my favorite MMO. Because they were like, you got special powers, but you ain't no more special than anybody else in this group. And you're just a scrub.
Troy.
Oh, Whackin' says 2024, a year for MMORPGs. MMOs have been stale for the past few years. Let's see if they can make a comeback and hook us long enough with a huge player base.
And finally, from the YouTube ones, Takao says, A-bomb to FanFest. Cue the clip of Krusty going, what the hell was that? I don't know what that was, but I just ain't feeling it. And in chat, Baron Vagabond gives a dub bomb to Troy's Applebee's fame. And Takao throws another bomb in there saying, to bomb to Stephen A. Smith. About time somebody said what needed to be said. I don't know what Stephen A. Smith said, so I'll have to look it up after the show. Question of the week last week was one you didn't care about. What's the 2024 game you're waiting for the most? And it did not have to be multiplayer, and it didn't even have to fully release in 2024, like a beta would count. Soul Echelon chimes in here again saying, this one's tough as there's a ton coming out right now. Single player, Dragon's Dogma 2. I agree. Can't wait to have the wind push me again. Little bit of an in-joke. Those who know. Haha, yes. Multiplayer, Palworld. I'm beginning to think I might have mislabeled my YouTube account as Soul Echelon. Because, we are right on the same page. Multiplayer, Palworld. I know how morbidly adorable this game is, and I've been wanting a Pokemon-esque game to play for a while now. MMO, The First Descendant. Hell yeah. Troy, Matthew, and I are all looking forward to that one. We had feedback during the beta. It seemed to be the same feedback a lot of people had. They seem to take that feedback to heart, so we'll see. Played both betas, really enjoyed it, but thanks to what was revealed in this episode about Nexon, I'm now more wary than ever. Yeah, we're wary about the same things. Using AI to flub numbers on drop rates, yeah. They, by the way, on that topic, the MapleStory thing, they did get the fine and everything. They had like an emergency presentation that you could attend on that, because they were trying to say, just because we have that technology to mix up the RNG rates on individuals for various criteria doesn't mean we're actually doing it. We don't do that. And these fines were a while ago. And the reason that the box rate stuff changed was because it was the way we originally implemented it. It was breaking the game a bit. Things were becoming too powerful, so we had to drop the drop rate. They totally were like, we aren't liars. This was an accident. Blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you believe them or not, that's up to you.
Nope.
I swear that company finds a way to ruin everything, but we'll see what happens. Shoutouts to Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Helldivers 2, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth once it comes to PC. I mean, the list goes on. So many amazing games. My poor backlog, LOL. Takao also chimed in on this, saying, most looking forward to Blue Protocol. I think that's one for a lot of people this year. Looks like a fun game to take over for Guild Wars 2 as my sometime side game when I'm not playing 14. Troy, what's the game you want the most this year?
Nightingale. Nightingale remains at
Yeah,
the top of my
still.
list. Yeah.
Q, you got one?
I'm just waiting for the 14 expansion at this point.
Dawn Trail. There you go. Question of the week this week. We've already talked about it. What's your personal gaming prediction for 2024? And what do you think about some of our predictions? Agree, disagree? Let us know. You know, every time we review these, we do like to bring your outlandish predictions to that end of the year show and make fun of you as well while we make fun of ourselves. So make your predictions in the comments. We'll be sure to bring them to the end of the year show and just lambaste you for how bad your predictions were. That's going to do it for today's show. We'll be back next Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern here on twitch.tv/MMOBomb. Until then, Troy, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on the socials at NoobFridge.
Q.
I'm still lurking on Twitter at Quinlan.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me right there at magicman1, but more importantly, follow at MMOBomb, and you'll know every time we're going live with a new podcast, new articles, interviews like our Lost Ark one put up just yesterday, and giveaways. Stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.